DR fam, how's everybody doing? Hope everybody had a great day and good Tuesday. Um, for those who reached out to me, I'm doing all right. It's the 1 year anniversary of my dad passing, and that was definitely my hero. So a little rough, but you know what? Like my dad always taught me, man, just keep on moving. So anyway, and then I had a really busy day at the office today, so that might have helped as well because I really didn't have time to just kind of sit there and just think about it too much. But anyway, I'm good. I appreciate the support, the love. You guys are awesome. So anyway, let us talk about DR. And if you guys were looking at the market today at all, yeah, it was a day, and I didn't get to really play in it that much. So I'm a little upset about that, but it's all good. It's all good. And so let's go through it. I'm not going to talk about the overnight or the London session. There was a really nice trade on the London, which I woke up and I didn't take it, but again, was really not, that wasn't what I was on my mind in the morning. So anyway, so uh, here we go. So let's talk about DR now. Range today was incredible. We had a 30 something over 30 point range. So let's say 49.40 to 49 to 44.75. Yeah, 44.40 to 44. So that's what 35 points already, or however, probably a little more than that. But anyway, so huge range day, and what you'd expect on a range day like that is that we would spend a lot of time kind of hanging out like inside of the DR range, and we didn't get that today. So first clue, and I'll tell you the trade. I only took one trade. There was like really two DR trades today, but really only one that I got in. But let's talk about kind of the setup here, and it's a little bit bigger. So each one of these, so yeah, so these are 5 point. Yeah, these are 5 point on the range side here. So if we think about it, if you right? So we got this morning, we had this move here, right? Which, again, that normally lets us know, 60, 70% bias that we're going to go up for the day, okay? And again, with that huge of a range, though, I thought, well, we probably won't do that. Now, I did not even really look at the chart. I got in the morning and jumped right into meetings, things like that. So I didn't really get a chance to look at the chart. My meeting was over at 11, and that's why I ended up looking at the chart and jumped in a trade and said, "Ooh, thank you." All right, and I did a set and forget trade. I literally was in between meetings, so I jumped in, set it. I just let 5 points for take profit, and could basically close the chart up. Wish I was able to look at it because I would have been a lot more profitable today. But again, profit is profit, and we'll take what we get for today, right? So, all right, but let's talk about it here. Again, we had this move going up. Now, this is our setup range, right? That's at 9:30 to 10:30 right now. If you are super aggressive and you saw this move happening, and then you saw this come back down into this fair value gap, this bullish fair value gap, yeah, you could have taken that trade. Okay. Let's be greedy about it. Could have taken another trade here. There's another fair value gap. All right. So then we go up. Okay. So those are the kind of the setup, really aggressive moves, using those fair value gaps from the ICT strategy. Okay. And I love fair value gaps, so I definitely would have probably been taking a look at those trades. And my normal thing I would do, I set my order at the top of the fair value gap. So once it dips down into it, it kind of picks me back up on the way up, right? Especially on the bullish ones anyway. Opposite for the bearish ones, of course. So here we go. 10:30, we go ahead and we confirm. High, easy, right? Right at 10:30 basically. Next candle, we actually end up just retracing back down like we love to see it. And then now if you look at where IDR and DR, I mean, literally it's the same line, right? So you could have you can put your order anywhere there and you've been fine. Now, so this candle, let me go ahead and make this bigger for it so we can kind of see it. Because here's where it gets a little bit tricky, but not so much because, depending on where your stop is, right? So let's say my normal 5 point stop. Let's see, this is 45.75 and 45.70 is down here. Okay. And so what would have happened and it's where you got to. And I'm not. I got to see where this candle ended up. This one right here, because that may have stopped you out if you got in on the top of that DR line instead of this IDR line. But I'm not sure, because technically you could have taken a trade here. All right. Now, not saying, because now we're looking for price to go up, and this price, it went above. So really what we wanted is price to come down and then pick us up on the way up, right? And so that's what would have happened here, because when this candle closed, this candle opened here. Looks like it went down. Actually, no, it went up and then it went down, right? So yeah, you would have gotten picked up on the way up and then had to watch it come down. This candle ended up coming down. So, it's a possibility. And again, I haven't done the numbers to see exactly if I'm doing 5 points, if that would have been 5 points, but it's pretty darn close. I will say that. All right. So, but that's one opportunity. Second opportunity is here, right? You see, as we poke above the DR line, could have put your order here. Now this one you would have gotten, it would have been kind of the same thing, right? Because these two are relatively equal lows. All right. Now, if you're being a little more careful, what you could have done, once these equal lows, you notice again, we are inside of a bullish fair value gap. All right. So if you really want to be aggressive on these, what I would do is put my order here, all right, for it to go up. Okay. Because then it will pick you up and you would ride this all the way up. All right. Even if you got in on this candle and then, you say you got in here and this candle went up and then it went up and it came down, you're still good, because your stop loss is down here now. All right. So again, just trusting the process. You may have taken a loss here, but if you could still maintain your process, you would have actually gotten back in and would have been a nice trade. So here's the trade I took again right around 11 o'clock. Got out of my meeting and I saw this setup, and then I saw that we were heading back up to the DR high. So I put my order actually on the DR high. That's 44.75 and 5 point take profit, 5 point stop loss, and it did this, and I got a notification on my phone because my chart was closed. Notification said, okay, your trade has been completed, basically. So now if I was able to watch that, I, of course, definitely would have moved my stop up, because you see all these green candles. I'd have moved my stop up. It says 45.80, 85 here. Now, the other part is here we had a weekly buy side liquidity. Okay. Now, this one would have been a little bit tricky for me, because I treat those, especially those heavy weighted liquidity zones like that buy side, the weekly and the monthly. Normally what would happen is you come up here and price would like to test the rejection on it, right? So that does happen sometime. Now, today, what I would have seen, right? Once we got up here to, let's say, 45.85, my take profit up here now, what I see is we have a fair value gap, bullish fair value gap. So even if we would have came back down, my expectation is that it would have come down, price would have came down here to the fair value gap and then reversed off of that, because that's a bullish fair value gap. All right. Now, the good part is I'm locked in. Some folks who follow me know I would say this, right? I got 5 points locked in because my stop loss has moved up to 45.80. All right. Once I get up here. Okay. So I'm okay testing this, because if it comes down to 45.80, I get stopped out. I get my 5 points. All right. If it turns around on me, I'm still in the trade. Okay. So there's a buy side there. Now, the next thing that I'm looking at is, let's say I'm still in this trade. Now, I'm out, right? So, from a personal standpoint, I got in here, I got out here, and it let me know I'm out, and I didn't really know what was happening with the market for a little while after that. Even had a meeting over lunch, so that really, I couldn't even look at that lunchtime. But again, here, let's say you miss all that, or you get out of a trade. So you miss all this, or you get out of the trade. You see what we got here is another bullish fair value gap, right? So we're using ICT a lot today. That's what presented itself, because there is no other DR trade for us. This was it. This area right here was it. We never came back down to test it to go back up. So if you are looking for multiple trades for the day, you have to kind of switch over to ICT in this case. And so here you see we have like I said, a bullish fair value gap. which means price wants to go up. And you see what happens. We come down into it, test it a bunch of times, and then we come back off of it. And where do we head to? This gray area with the red line. Now that is a new week opening gap, which is another ICT concept. And I started to keep those on my chart just because they tend to be, again, support resistance type zones. And so if you see what happens here, we go back up. And now if let's say I put my order on top of this bullish fair value gap, that's like 44.91, and this takes me up to like 4,500. Right, so that's actually what's 8-9 points there. Right, then you see what happens as soon as it gets up to that middle of that, which is, I guess they call it consequent encroachment of that new week opening gap. And the new week opening gap, for those who don't know, is really just the gap between price at 4 p.m. on Friday when the market closes and 6 p.m. on Sunday when the market opens back up, right? And so that fair value gap, this new week opening gap was really from, so this is where it is. This one's from, I don't know why they wrote this backwards, but it's actually August 6th through August 11th, that week, that new week opening gap, that weekend. And the middle of that was 44.99.25, right? So you can kind of see the range on that one. So then you see another one here from 8/13, like a couple weeks ago. So you kind of get the idea of how those are set up. Okay. So anyway, so that's so that new week opening gap kind of becomes again another support resistance area. But you could have, like I said, just taken that trade. You could have taken the trade off of this, taken up here. And if you notice, fair value gaps were strong today. We draw it all the way out, right? Because you can see we come back down, another fair value gap test, rejection or reversal back off of it. Okay, we go back and we test that new week opening gap again. Then we come back down again, back into the fair value gap, and we kind of move back up. All right. So, if you are a more aggressive trader, today was again a lot of opportunities. They were not IDR opportunities, but they were definitely trade opportunities you could have taken. And where did we end up today? We ended up, let's see, above the fair value gap. Looks like we're heading to this next weekly buy side liquidity zone up here. We probably might take that out tonight. No, we'll see. But normally when you hit one of these zones, like I said, you're going to eventually come back down. So today is Tuesday. I don't know if we have any speakers or any news coming out from the market. So I'll take a look at that later. But that was today. All right. So from a DR perspective, really 1-2 trades that you have taken. One, if you were really aggressive, you'd have probably got stopped out on potentially. And then if you were waiting, you could have gotten in here or even here, but you got in there and then kind of rolled that up. Really nice profit on that one today. Okay, but I'm happy with my 5 points. Like I said, it's cool to make money while you're making money. So I'm working my job, but I'm also making money in the market. No complaints about that. All right. We have literally obliterated the weekly high, which we set at 3 in the morning. We had set a weekly high. That's this candle here. I think it moved. It was supposed to be down here somewhere. It was supposed to be here. So I got to reset that now up here somewhere. Okay. And so we'll see how we we handle the weekly high. All right. So that's it. A lot to talk about, but not a lot of trades from a DR perspective. But again, if you're doing other trades using ICT, fair value gaps, things like that, I'm sure there's some breakers and some order blocks and all that kind of stuff that I don't really get into, but I'm sure all that stuff was around today as well. All right. So that's it. Let me just kind of my soapbox for today. And this was a question that I got asked around, we talked about ICT and how to use DR with ICT and what's the difference. Why don't you just use ICT? So to me, ICT is complicated because there's so much stuff you kind of, well, let me not say it that way. It's complicated from the fact that there's a lot of different models that if you really want to master it, you have to, kind of really understand that. Shout out to my man, Tim, Spider Gang, because Tim understands those models and he can spout them off and identify them and things like that, right? I pick a couple of spots from ICT that I like, fair value gaps, liquidity zones. The new opening gap is just to me just another liquidity zone. Yeah, and so I kind of keep to that. It's outside of my, what I do for DR, right? So I leverage those things. Now, the thing for me, and this is Goddard speaking, or Tim Caldy Robinson speaking, or however you want to do it. The way I look at it is, ICT is one where you have to set up your charts up to understand when things should happen, right? So if these four things happen, then the fifth thing that should happen is this thing, and that's where you're looking to enter your trade, and where you look to exit your trade and things like that. And there's some component of that inside of DR as well. I'm sure there is. Like if you really get into the data-driven aspect of it, because this comes from a data-driven aspect of 20 years of data that says in these situations here's kind of what happens, right? But for me, I look at ICT as a if-then kind of strategy, right? If these things happen, then do this, right? I look at DR as a when-then strategy. When this happens, then do this, because this is what should happen next. Okay, so that's why I have a lot of confidence that when we actually take out like here, when we go up, I always say this, when we go up we confirm one direction, then the next thing I'm looking for is a retrace, right? Now, sometimes that retrace happens right away, like it did today. Sometimes that retrace will happen, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But I always say, okay, when this confirmation happens, then I'm looking for a retrace. All right. Once I see the retrace, then I'm looking for, in my case, the way I apply the strategy, I'm looking for the rungs on the ladder for me to get a trade in that direction. All right. So if I see this happening, I see the retrace come down, let's say this is my DR line. I see the retrace come down, and sorry all this ugly drawing I got going on here, but I'm looking for I'm looking for my order here or here or here or here, depending on how far up it goes, right? Or how far down it goes. I'll be looking here or here or here. Okay. Yeah, I did that backwards, guys. I'm sorry. Let me do that real quick again. Okay. All right. So I get my confirmation here, and I don't see a retrace until here. I'm looking for my ladder steps to be here, right? And I'm looking for DR, IDR, 0.5 fib, or DR, IDR at the bottom end. And I'm trying to see where price is going to reverse off of that, because I know it's supposed to go this way, right? It's supposed to go up because of how I confirmed. So, excuse me. So again, I look at it as a when-then strategy, which doesn't require me to think as much, right? And for those of us who work 9 to 5s, a lot of times I don't have time to think. And so, like today, honestly, I came in and I saw the move here. Okay, hey, confirmed, good. It retraced, good. Okay, it's heading back up toward the DR. So, okay, put an order on, let it go. Right, that's it. Right, I'm not worried about, where this order block is in relation to this fair value gap and where the consequent encroachment is. Again, that's all great stuff, and I love people who can do it well. Like I said, I enjoy watching Tim do it because he's spot on 90% of the time. But again, I just don't have time to do that. And so that's why I just wanted to point that out, because somebody really did ask me that question around, what's the difference, and why don't you just use ICT, since I reference it so much, because there are some great things on ICT that I love. But I pick and choose those things, and I just use those kind of judiciously. Can I figure out what an order block is? Can I figure out what a breaker block is and mitigation block? Yeah, I've heard all those. I've seen the examples. I can probably, if I saw the example, I'm sure I can figure it out. But I can see a fair value gap easy. I know I can go and set my liquidity zones up pretty easily, and I just go from there. All right. Anyway, that's my soapbox for tonight. And it wasn't really a soapbox. It's just kind of how I look at the strategies differently, and kind of based on how you set up things, you can do the same thing, right? So, I do know the ICT 2022 mentorship strategy. I can do that one, but again, it's just I just don't need to, because DR works for me. All right. Anyway, that's it. Off the soapbox. You guys have a great night. Thanks again for all the support with my dad. I appreciate that, and tomorrow is another busy day for me, so we'll see what happens. Nothing wrong with a set it and forget it trade, though. I'm gonna be honest with you. I may not get all the points I could get today, but you know, keeping the train moving. All right. Anyway, you guys have a wonderful night. You know what I always say: love on your loved ones. You never know when you won't be able to do it again. So take advantage of the opportunities. And God bless. We'll see you.